all people of the world in congratulating President Donald Trump on his election as the 47th President of the United States of America. Let me also congratulate the people of the United States of America for electing President Trump to lead the United States at this point in time. I openly campaigned for Trump in the elections, though I'm not an American and I don't vote there. But I largely went to the media. I was also in social media platforms campaigning for Trump, and majority Republicans to take over the leadership of both houses of the United States Parliament. I did campaign for Trump and Republicans for the simple reason that I've always stood firmly against the LGBTQ policy, which the Democrats have been pushing down our throats, not just in the United States, but across the world, as a creed everybody has to uphold if they had to have a relationship with the United States of America. People may have forgotten, but the first executive order President Obama signed was to recognize homosexuality or LGBTQ as human rights, and to mandate that any American body, agency, whether governmental or non-governmental, which was giving money in terms of aids, in terms of grants, in terms of loans to any other body in the world, had to condition it to the beneficiary, acknowledging homosexuality as a human right and undertaking to promote and support it. That executive order by President Obama has been pushed to Africa, has been pushed across the world, and it is the reason as to why all our efforts, even in dealing with matters HIV/AIDS, if you are to be granted PEPFAR funding, if you are not promoting homosexuality, you would not get it. We have been a party to a movement within Africa which has been fighting against homosexuality. And during the time President Obama was president, down to the time President Biden took over, it has been very difficult to fight homosexuality in Kenya and across Africa. We are not forgetting that a short while ago, when Uganda passed the Anti-Homosexuality Act, the United States of America took it out of all PEPFAR funding. And if you remember, PEPFAR funding was to enable the fight of HIV/AIDS. The question you'd ask is, why would you take out PEPFAR funding from a country which has enacted a law against homosexuality? The fact of the matter is that the Democrats in the United States were captured by the big pharma. And the big pharma needed where to take their drugs. And so the research institutions in the United States, whether you go to Harvard, whether you go to Yale and the others, know that homosexuals are more prone to HIV/AIDS infection. And so, while at least when you enact a law to stop homosexuality, it will reduce HIV/AIDS infection, and therefore you should be supported, they were not to be given PEPFAR funding and drugs for the reason that they were seeking to stop more infections. So that the more the people get infected, the more the big pharma using the Democrats or the Democratic Party in the US had where to take their HIV drugs. And that is how hypocritical, that is how devious the Democrats, became in the US. And it was unfortunate this was being pushed, as a creed and as a mandate the entire world had to follow. And so it has been regrettable. Ghana passed a law. We want to congratulate them. Malawi is working on something. In Kenya, I've been pushing for the family protection bill. That family protection bill had provisions similar to these very things contained in President Trump's executive order. And we all know, as the people of Kenya, efforts which have been made by those foreign powers to thwart the family protection bill, which I proposed in Kenya, from being enacted into law. That bill has been kept in the store of the Social Protection Committee. A bill which I was helped to draft by 4 clerks of parliament has been lying there for eternity. There is a time I told you the clerk of the National Assembly wrote to me saying that bill will remain suspended indefinitely. What I want to tell Kenyans now is that I now know it is the Democratic Party of the US under President Biden who sanctioned the enactment of that bill. And by the way, it was so firmly done, it reached a level nobody within the entire parliament would touch that bill. And therefore, I want to appreciate President Trump that has promised during his campaigns, among the executive orders he has signed, is the executive order saying there are only 2 gender categories. You are either male or female, full stop. He has also said that nobody will claim he's a woman and take the benefits we've been fighting for in terms of protection of our girls and women for eternity simply by identifying themselves as gender. I'm so pleased that President Trump has kept the promise. And I'm following on the foothold of the executive order now issued by the US government. I want to promise that 2 things must happen. The Supreme Court determination that said sex, which is equal to gender, means sexual orientation, meaning that people have a right to determine their gender at will each time according to what they feel, must now be reviewed. And so you remember the people of Kenya last time I approached the Supreme Court, and I told them sexual orientation and gender identity is not part of our recognized laws in the country, and that bad decision through which they were directing that homosexual groups must be registered and recognized in Kenya should be reviewed. They dismissed me on technicalities. And what they said is that they were dismissing me because I could not appeal or seek review having not been a party to the proceedings. But we also know that the Supreme Court delivered that decision just when Jill Biden was in the country. And we also know that you've never known the reason as to why Jill Biden came to the country to date. Jill Biden came to the country to force the government, and here the government, I'm including the Supreme Court, to make that determination which had been lying for over 1 year. And so that is the determination. She came, she secured it from the Supreme Court and went back. Now that we have regime change in the United States, and now that we have President Trump, who in a common sense approach says we only have male or female, full stop, we are going to approach our Supreme Court again and remind the Supreme Court that the hold the Democrats had on you to use you as an organ of government in Kenya to impose on the people of Kenya homosexuality has been unchained, and to demand that determination be reversed. So I'm going back to court to seek review. And I know our honorable judges are now on a more flexible, more common sense regime that will not intervene to dictate the directions we give. Number 2, I now want to request the leadership of Parliament, led by my Speaker, the Right Honorable Dr. Moses Masika Wetangula, and the administrative system of Parliament to now allow me to proceed with a family protection bill which had been drafted by this Parliament to completion. As I've said, that family protection bill has much more, but I'm happy that those very provisions in the bill for which it was being stopped by these foreign powers, led largely by the then American government, are the very things President Trump has put in the executive order as things which are prohibited. I know I will be asked, now that you people are saying we only have male and female gender, what of intersex persons? And let me make it clear. I recognize that intersex persons exist. But the truth of the matter is that intersex persons are not of different gender from male or female. All intersex persons are either male or female. The difference is that at birth, you may see their biological parts as being ambiguous. But by puberty, their real gender, whether they are male or female, becomes decipherable, and their gender is then rightfully assigned. So the pretense the homosexual groups have been struggling to bring even intersex among them is something that is not scientific, and it is something that has been proven. I want to thank the intersex persons that even when we had this matter in the Supreme Court, they came to the Supreme Court, and in spite or despite the push by the homosexual groups, the LGBTQ group, to add them, they said, we are not homosexuals and we are not party to that group. They are not there. So all human beings are either male or female, and this is scientifically proven. So we are not excluding anybody. We are not discriminating anybody. We want to avoid situations like the ones I told Kenyans before, where just by a man claiming they are women, which is the sexual orientation America was pushing through Democrats here, you can then access the privileges of women. You've seen cases where in sports now, a man simply identifies himself as a woman, and then he can compete with women, and records are being shattered. So the boxing in the Olympics a short while back, where a man just says, I'm a man, and then you go boxing with women, because if you are denied the chance to fight women once you identify as a woman, they call it discrimination. These are the things we have to do away with. You people know the story of Really Gaines. A girl in the United States competing with a man, 6'11". And this gentleman is going with them into the locker rooms, into the bathrooms, and he's changing there naked. And he's saying he must enjoy that privilege simply because he has said he's a woman. And you saw that case, if you would go and Google, it was a very sad case, where Really Gaines now has tied in swimming with this gentleman. And in their creed, because homosexuality is being upgraded, they say the trophy or the award is to be given to the transgender. A lot of that nonsense is now being swept away by the Trump regime because it is a common sense regime. And we join him in that endeavor. I told you of the time I visited a country in Eastern Europe. I will be telling you the country later, because I want to see how Europeans behave now that the leader of the world has spoken. And in the hotel where I was, which is the best hotel in town, I go into the gym, I go into the bathroom for men, I go into the steam bath area, and a woman in her mid-40s also comes totally naked and sits next to me there. And I'm also naked in the steam bath area. And I go asking the management, why did you allow a woman to enter the male bath area? And they say, we hope you didn't refer to him as a woman. I'm saying, but that's a woman. It's a woman. I say, no, he has identified himself as a man. So in my understanding of a male area, you go questioning, why did they even have a signage? They are saying it is for male. And to suffer, seated with a woman in a steam bath area for as long as you can imagine. And you cannot question. And this is a woman, and you know, she comes totally naked, no towel on her. And we are told because she has identified herself as a man, I have no problem sitting with her there. You people must not have forgotten this situation in Scotland, where a person, upon being imprisoned, goes to be admitted into the prison, is taken there, and he says, I identify myself as a woman. The gentleman went raping everybody in the female, prison. And the investigation is going today. So that insanity is coming down today. And that is why Trump is defining just the way, actually stealing from the family protection bill, which Biden regime stopped from being enacted in Kenya, that a woman is an adult female person, full stop. Look at the family protection bill. That is what I said. That's what a woman is. And these people came, and they are saying things like you can mutilate and change your sex. Let me tell you today, the reason they were allowing those sex change procedures is very devious. The thing is that the natural hormone of a male person is testosterone. The natural hormone of a woman person is estrogen and progesterone. So immediately you say, as a boy I want to be, I feel like, I don't know how a boy can feel like they are a woman when you've never been a woman to know how women feel. They start injecting your body with hormones to subdue your natural production of testosterone, and they inject your body with the hormone for the female you have identified yourself as, and so you start behaving like that. It means you are an object for those hormones the whole of your life. It means you are an object for treatment the whole of your life. I cannot tire to thank Trump for bringing back sanity to the world, because the Democratic Party in the United States reached a level where they were just seeing objects for money for the big pharmaceutical industries in all human beings they watch around. And how I pray that the Republicans take charge of the United States of America long beyond after Trump. How I pray that people who are pushing homosexuality into Africa, into countries like Kenya, like Meg Whiteman, I thank God she had to leave immediately Trump was elected. How I pray that such devious characters don't find any space to do anything in public service anywhere. The other element Trump has put in the executive order is that you cannot serve in the defense forces of the United States if you are a homosexual. Is he not borrowing directly from our family protection bill? How happy I am. In fact, in the family protection bill, I had proposed that you should not serve in the public service, anywhere in the public service. And so I'm telling our people, there are even many of them in this parliament, I know, in this parliament. The family protection bill is back. Homosexuality must be brought to an end now, or you exit and you never return. Because there is no way we can have homosexuality as a crime in Kenya, and then we are using taxpayers' money to pay criminals. It is so bad. We've reached a level where I was making noise about this thing, Kenyans, and people took it for granted. But the rate at which these homosexual groups have been recruiting our young people, more so new graduates, into this thing is crazy. You go to HOMA Bay town, the slum areas, you go to this Nairobi, go to Dandoras, and they come under the cover of these organizations, American-funded, West-funded organizations. And then they recruit our new graduates, 30,000. You are into this nonsense. You are exposed to diseases, cervical cancer, HIV, AIDS, and then they don't care about you. It has been a sad thing happening. How do we pray for Trump to continue in the trajectory he's begun at? And then we want to promise, even as leaders from across the world, that we will be behind him. I'm part of what we call a political network for values, which is a network of political leadership fighting for good governance. And I want to assure Trump that even the threats we were finding, so many MPs as we speak across in Uganda, they are about their visas cancelled. They cannot go to the US, they cannot go to Europe. Because one President Obama, followed by Biden, the Democrats, said unless you are supporting homosexuality, you cannot travel. We want all their visa to be returned. Recently, I was to go out of the country to some country here, and they denied me visa. I knew it is because of my stance on homosexuality. I'm telling that country that I'm applying for visa again. Now that Trump is in power, I want to see what you are going to. And they are doing that to African leaders. When you remember the Prime Minister, the immediate former Prime Minister of Britain, said human beings are either male or female. And Ricky Sunak said it, and nobody does it. In Africa, you accept to be homosexual, or you cannot go to do your businesses across the world. We are very grateful for what has happened. We thank President Trump, the Family Protection Bill. And I hope there is a new US head of US Embassy who will not condition what we are doing in this country to our supporting homosexuality. And we will therefore not meddle in our issues the way Meg Whiteman.
More radio, 88.2 FM. We are in charge. More radio, 88.2 FM. We are in charge. More radio, 88.2 FM. We are in charge. More radio.